Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Look, Wrestling 101, classes in session. Pay attention to the teachings, that's from Andrew and Derek. I mean, these guys making a killing with no competition. Dynamic duo better than the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys. Everybody make some noise, mess with them, you get destroyed. They cannot be beat, take a seat. Watch them do they thing on the MIC. Face defeat, they cannot be seen like JC. Oh my goodness, it's a killing spree.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Wrestling IQ 101 with Felicia Rose, aka the People's Tramp.
Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Wrestling IQ 101. I'm Andrew alongside Derek.
Yep.
And you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Wrestling IQ 101. And today we're sitting with Sean Damage McNelis. Man, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good, Sean. Good. Thanks for joining us today. We have some questions for you, obviously.
I love questions.
Yeah. Don't get nervous.
I didn't do the macho impression this time because we're not at a show.
We're not at a show?
I'm sitting down. I'm not standing up.
Well, what Sean is alluding to, we are the Mega Powers. We're at shows.
I'm
Hogan.
Yeah, he's Hogan and I'm Macho.
Somehow this is taking form. You even wished me Merry Christmas a couple weeks ago as the Macho Man. That was nice. And then I sent you a Hulk Hogan on a wrecking ball.
Hulk Hogan on that was. I think I opened my phone and when I saw that I went, and then I moved on. But it was very. It was a nice. You know, you don't get those every day, so you'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, what's more appealing than Hulk Hogan on a wrecking ball?
Like in a G-string.
I mean, the man's confident.
To say that he ought to be, I suppose, brother. Right? He is Hulk Hogan.
Terry Bollea is dealing with some efficiency down there, right?
Oh,
but Hulk Hogan is.
Hulk Hogan's off. Yeah, he doesn't need the blue shoe.
Yeah, he doesn't need that.
Well, you better watch out for Hulk Hogan.
Oh, great. This is good, guys. Thanks. I've been on 5 minutes. I'm already burying the greatest friggin' draw in the history of wrestling, and I'm burying him. That's good.
He doesn't listen to us anyway.
This is a good start. I'm shocked by that.
He might. You don't know.
Brother.
Well, he doesn't need to or want to stay up to date with everything wrestling in 2019.
Yeah.
Am I your first of 2019?
In 2019, is he?
No.
Today's date?
January 10th.
No, I did. We spoke to Chad.
Chad and Rob
last week.
Okay. That's fine.
It's all good.
Yeah, but two's not bad.
Number two. That's good. That's kind of this.
We got another 363 to go.
Hey, there you go. Numero dos.
So, Sean, let's go back. When you first, decided you wanted to get into wrestling, what were kind of like the steps that you personally took to become a wrestler?
Well, my story is very unique, and before I begin my story, I wanna start by saying that people shouldn't get into wrestling the way I did.
Yeah.
The way I got into wrestling was kind of by accident. I started goofing around with a bunch of friends in the backyard, like just about everybody else did, and when that kind of closed, we didn't really have another outlet for it, and I was only 16. I was too young to actually go to wrestling training, and I had no idea. This is kind of like right as the internet's happening, so it's not like I could go Google a wrestling school or something like that. You got to do a lot of... Either way. So I was green, and we met up with a couple of guys who were doing a similar thing in Sayreville. From there, it kind of grew. I ended up being surrounded with a bunch of guys who were actually in wrestling training and actually going to training, some of which were, I guess we can talk about it now. It's been it's been 16 years. A few guys who were going to JPW wrestling training who just so happened to become friends with me. And I was able to kind of pick up things and learn from them. And we ended up taking it more seriously, and we got a ring somehow. We built ourselves a ring, and we started wrestling in a 14 by 14 or 16 by 16 ring. And I was having really terrible matches. I could say that now, but I was bumping and I was learning things, and then it went away for a while. This is 2005. everything stops. I do some stuff in Pennsylvania through connections I had made, but for the most part, wrestling kind of died for me. Except for, you know, watching it and being a big fan and watching some of my friends achieve a great deal of success in their own right on the independent circuit. Particularly, sorry guys, Eric Corvus, or Corvus Fear, or Roach, Arcadia, Brian Brass, Mike Quest. These guys were just guys I ended up developing friendships with. And, you know, TJ Bogart, Chris Redfield, Eddie Thomas, another guy.
Eddie Thomas.
Eddie Thomas.
Oh my God.
Eddie, yeah, I'm bringing it. Yeah, but he
seems like the most level-headed of the Thomas brothers.
I agree with that for sure.
But they achieved a great deal of success on the indies, and then out of nowhere, we all kind of get back together and decide that, hey, we're going to start a promotion from what we were doing back then, and you know, if you want to hop on, you know, you're more than welcome to. You're going to have to learn a little bit more and stuff like that, but you know, if you're willing to do it, you know. And I was all aboard. I was all about it, because for me, it started with just hanging out with friends, and I was able to get, you know, secondhand training from all these really young athletic wrestlers who, you know, I'm an athletic guy myself. I always loved sports, and I was always into wrestling, so it was easy for me to pick up upon. But it's taken me, that was all the way back in 2010, 11, 2012. But it's taken me all this time to really get to the point where I feel like I'm actually a wrestler. And I still only kind of feel like I'm actually a wrestler. But I would advise anybody listening to this who is interested in a reputable training school, pay the money and go there. It is by far and away the best way to get into wrestling. You learn so much better. It took me 16 years to get here, you know, from doing it the way I did it. And it was free, but I paid for it in other ways. It's the best way to go is to go through a reputable school. I want to mention that too, because I did pay $10 a couple of times to get my ass kicked. Okay. So, but that's kind of how my story began. And then before I knew it, my first year in the biz, I'll never forget, the big change for me is my biggest match I ever had was one of the biggest matches. Probably the biggest match I ever had is me versus, we were talking about it earlier, me versus Monster Mac, Steve Mac. That was a switch. I found out about that the day of.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow,
maybe not the day of, a couple of days before.
You still went through with it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there was no way I was saying no. Man, you don't say no to stuff like that.
You know, I mean,
I was petrified. Are you kidding? I was honestly, my thought process at the time, since I'm just gonna be honest.
You weren't wearing white pants that day.
I was like, I'm very good friends with Arcadia. Steve is really cool with Arcadia. Maybe that will make me cool with Steve. But I'm not going to lie, I was nervous. It was my first match against a guy that I didn't come up with wrestling. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I was very nervous. I'll never forget going into the building, and I was like, you know, I'm smart enough. You know, I walk right up to him, I shake his hand. Hi, Steve, I'm Sean. It's really great to meet you. I'm really excited about the match. And I'm like, there's a moment. And he looks at me, and he's like, and I just get this big, wide smile. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm really excited. I'm looking very forward to it. You know, I just give me a couple minutes, let me get my stuff together, and we'll go and we'll talk about it. And we went and we talked about it, and we talked about it in a way that I had never talked about wrestling before. And because he wasn't like, usually when other guys, I was used to calling with younger guys who were like, we're going to do this. That wasn't how Steve did it. Steve was just like, you're going to hit me with a backdrop. And I was like, a back? He was like, yeah, you're going to hit me with a backdrop. The crowd's going to go insane. And I was like, okay. And I didn't know what to expect going into it. I was like, I'm going to give this guy a backdrop. He's going to go insane.
And before we went on,
hold on. He goes to throw a punch. I catch him. I backdrop him. They went nuts.
Oh, really? Yeah?
They went nuts, because that was the first I gave him the old heave-ho, and they were like, oh, I gave him the heave-ho. So, yeah, you know, and it was a brilliant match, probably one of the best matches I ever had, and Steve is an amazing wrestler, an amazing guy, and I feel lucky to have met him.
Yeah, same here. You know, Derek feels the same way, too.
Sure, yeah. Uncle Mac.
He's a great guy. Yeah. Oh, what a great guy.
Adopted uncle, man. That's my uncle right there.
If everybody in the wrestling business was like him, it would cease to exist because everybody would be too nice.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. That's definitely true.
You know, before we went on air, you were telling us that he threw you against the wall, right? How'd that come about? And how are you still walking now?
He throws people against walls. That's just kind of what he does. And, you know, he threw me against the wall. And, you know, once again,
Was that planned? Or?
This is a new thing, wrestlers saying no to things. Like, that's new. Like, I've been unsure of certain things, but I've never outright been like, no, I'm not going to do that. So when Steve Mack tells you he's throwing you into the wall, you say, yes, sir. And if you want to do it again, just go for it. I don't mind.
Yeah,
you know?
I've seen him throw a lot.
And you know, it's not ballet. That's for sure. But Steve's a great wrestler. He knows exactly what he's doing. So.
And you kind of talked about this a little bit when you talked about how you came up in like backyard wrestling. I guess, like, you know, back in the days it's kind of harder for you to, you know, get into wrestling, and you know, you'd have to send an audition tape into WWE and all that. Even Mankind himself, Mick Foley, you know, the world famous video of him jumping off top of his house that got him, you know, into wrestling and all that stuff. But you know, now with wrestling schools and the way they are, do you think that I want to say, do you think that it helps and damages, no pun intended, as the business at the same time? Because now anybody could just go pay their money and get into wrestling.
That is an incredibly thoughtful question. And it's not something I've really ever... You know, there is something to be said about everybody doing the same thing, and being the same way. And like, you know, something... I don't want to use any for real example, but let me give you like a guy like a 6'4", like 400-pound dude who can move, right? Bald headed, ugly looking, just nasty.
Sounds like Lars.
That guy has more sellability than me.
Yeah.
Because I look like 12 other dudes wearing bike shorts and kick pads. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you change my gear with half of the guys on the roster of UWA Elite, no one's going to really that monster, that creature. And the problem is a lot of guys just don't want to buy into that. You know, a lot of guys don't want to buy into the fact that, oh, I'm a nasty, vile looking guy. Let me use that to... That's the way I've always seen it. And it is fair to see the same school of thought. You know, what interesting things of the Attitude Era was these different looking, like the Mankind, like you said, or a Kane or an Undertaker, or the bigger guys. But there's always been a niche for attractions, as Vince likes to call them. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I do think, especially now, that everything's streamlined to be a certain way. And that's why that's why you're seeing the rise of New Japan, ROH, and now AEW. These new, like, wrestling's on an uptick. You know, it's always been circular. It's always been cyclical. It always comes back around. And I think right now it's really coming back around, as you can see, with the rise of ROH, with the rise of New Japan, with WWE kind of falling back on their ratings and stuff like that. But they're still made billions of dollars from Fox. You know, wrestling's on the up and up. And I mean, I would just, when you talk about backyard wrestling, I want to specify something, you know, because backyard wrestling has a connotation to it, and rightfully so, of crazy kids hitting each other with chairs, hitting each other with, like, we had time limits on our matches, like in the backyard. We had vignettes, you know, we had segments. Some guys were bashing each other with chairs and stuff, but we actually had a show. And, like, if you watched it, sometimes wrestling doesn't hold up, but if you would watch a show with 3 or 4 vignettes, with time limits on your match, anybody who couldn't take a bump, anybody who came into our ring had to know how to take bumps, had to know how to do certain things. The guys who took the big risks were aware of the big risks and took them, but for the most part, our show was a wrestling show. If you go back and watch it, the matches, I mean, you can't obviously watch it. They're on little micro tapes. But it was primarily just similar to a episodic wrestling program. We wrestled every Sunday for 8 to 9 months of the year. And it turns out I end up doing that for 6 different years of my life. Every Sunday for 3 years straight.
You know,
practically.
Why do you think they have such a bad rap? But like guys like the Hardys are world-renowned stars because they did the same thing as you were doing.
You know, it had a bad rap because at the time it was big in the news, especially in the early 2000s, about kids getting hurt doing backyard wrestling moves to each other and stuff like that. I think it gets a bad rap because honestly, at times I think it needs a bad rap. A lot of the people I've met in backyard wrestling are bitches, are guys who would not try to elevate to the next level because they're scared. That's what most of them are, unfortunately. The backyard community doesn't really like me anymore. But some of those guys are really great, awesome friggin' wrestlers, and some of them have moved on to be super great, awesome wrestlers. And the reason why that is it's twofold. One, they stopped caring about it, which when you're in that bubble, that's why I say they're like bitches. Mm-hmm. When you're in that bubble, it's small fish, big pond. You know what I mean? But like, you're doing it for no money in the backyard, which you're risking injury. And I mean, it's easy for me to say, oh, well, mine was put together so well and we were doing wrestling matches and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, if somebody would have gotten hurt, what the hell? But the guys, and another good thing is to travel. You could be a backyard wrestler, but if you're willing to travel, you'll get booked. You know, that's half the battle, truly. If you're willing to go from town to town to town and make the towns, eventually you're going to have to get booked because you're going to be the guy there. Because eventually they're going to be like, what's his name didn't show up. We need a guy to ref a match. Oh, you go ref the match. Oh, you know how to work? All right, go get squashed by the big guy. You know, that if you're willing to travel, you're going to get booked. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't matter who you are. And that's a credit to a lot of the guys who you've seen come out of backyard wrestling into pro wrestling and stay there. Because they're tough and they know how to work. And there's a bunch of them. I'm not going to out them. They know who they are. If they listen to this podcast, you guys are great. You guys are awesome. I have a great deal of respect for you. I hope you feel the same way about me. I'm not trying to shit on anybody.
I feel like though, like that was a different time too.
It was.
I feel like there's a lot of things that I could get away with as a kid that
you can't now.
My son, I'm not letting him do.
Right. Same with my daughter. You know, if my daughter tells me she wants to get into wrestling, I'm gonna be like, okay, well we'll send you to the Monster Factory. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's seriously where you're going, or somewhere of equal or better value. But for me, right now, I mean, the Monster Factory is right here, and it seems like the best place.
Yeah. So I feel like that's like I used to do the same thing too. We used to have matches
right,
in the backyard, jump on the play tables and do all this crazy stuff because that's just what kids did at that time.
I'll never forget when we rolled up. We were like, these guys wrestle on a trampoline. I don't want to wrestle on no trampoline. No. And then I learned how to do a moonsault on a trampoline.
That's pretty cool.
I learned how to do a moonsault in a wrestling ring. Then I learned how to do a moonsault and land on my feet in a wrestling ring. And then I forgot how to do a moonsault.
Oh, yeah.
I can't do it anymore without landing on my feet. If I go for, I've only tried it 3 times and I blew it each time. Really? So I'm not willing to try it on another guy.
How was that transition for you though? Was it weird? Did it feel weird? You know, you're going from the backyard, and now you're going into a building. You're going with fans. You know.
Well, it's
sitting around you.
It's weird how quickly you learn how backyard wrestling is for yourself. Mm-hmm. And when you wrestle in front of actual fans, how it's not necessarily for them, but it's about them. You know, like one thing I say to a lot of the new guys now is like, it's cool that you can do, you know, a double back moonsault, you know, and crush a guy, but I get the exact same reaction with a right hand. What's the, so what's the amazing feat? To me, the amazing feat is getting the equal reaction with a right hand, not doing the double backflip moonsault, landing on a guy. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's weird, right?
But like, I learned that real fast. I learned that you have to listen to them. One of my biggest pet peeves about wrestling is when I'm in the middle of a match, too much of the match has been called, and the fans are like starting a slow clap, and I have to sell. I can't get up for them. You know what I mean? Because I'm in the process of the match, and I know the guys need me to follow the process instead of. I like feeling things out. I like hearing what they have to say, and going based off of them. You know, but I'm still transitioning and learning and evolving even more. And I think a lot of wrestlers get to a certain point where they're like, I'm done. I'm not there. I'll never be there. If I'm in the business, I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to figure out more things. I'm trying to do it the way they used to do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want to get to. I want to be able to get into the ring and be like, all right, grab a hold, pal. You know, that's how I see it. It's like a de-evolving. You know, back in the day, I wanted to do all the senton bombs and the super flips and do all the move. Now I find myself like, I want to tell a story. I want people to believe in me. I want people to feel for me. I want them to feel sympathy, and I want them to get up when I get up and get down when I get down. And I want to basically sow the seeds of their story or my story for them.
So, you talked about it. Just like you, I have 2 kids.
Hey, good.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
And, I know at one point in time you decided to take a break from wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
How is it to balancing, something you love like wrestling, and then of course you love your family, but family and wrestling, and then having to make a decision like that where you decide that I have to put one over the other?
Well, at the time, there's a few reasons for the hiatus. At the time, I didn't have health insurance, and that was a big sticking factor for me as well as for my ex. Yeah, that I can't wrestle unless I have health insurance. That was part of it. I was also a little. I had at the time, what was it, 2016 when I take the hiatus. At the time, I had been going 4 years, in a row, and I'm not saying I was severely hurt or anything, but I had been nicked up here and there, and also at the time, I tried to kind of approach the backstage when I was off, when I wasn't wrestling. I still kept myself involved in a backstage style variety, helping out the boys, kind of a liaison to the front, to the back, and just creative stuff, just trying to pitch ideas, nothing too serious or anything. It was nice and it was an interesting side, and it's something I'm probably going to want to get into once I stop being a wrestler. I really like the creative side of it. But when it comes to my daughter, she's my everything. She's my favorite thing. She's been in a few of my promos. I haven't let her in anymore because she steals all my heat, and I can't have that. Not in my promo, kiddo. But she is also. I don't know how good it is to have my poor kid in a promo. So when she's 18, she'd be like, "Dad, why'd you do this to me?" So, but no, she's sweet, and she knows I love it. That's the thing that I think is so amazing about your kids. Yeah, is your kids see the things that you love, and they love them
too. Yeah, that's the best part.
I tell you what, my kid, if you ask my daughter what my full name is, she will tell you it's Sean Damage McNelis. It's not my real name, which I prefer because my real name is Sean Mark McNelis.
Okay.
Yeah. But she lights up my life, and actually, I won the I Championship in the UWA Elite on her birthday, and I'll never forget it because I hung out with her all day, and I was like, "Honey, I think I'm gonna go wrestle, and I might win a championship." And she was young at the time. And she was like, "Cool." And then when I won it, I brought it home, and she liked playing with it and stuff. So
that's nice. That's awesome. That's a great story, man. Yeah. Let's talk about that, man. February, Uprising 2017, man. Mm-hmm. You addressed the UWA Elite Army. What was going through your head right before that speech?
Oh, a few things. When it comes to the live promo stuff, that's like my favorite thing. So, like, I can't really tell you I was nervous. I knew exactly what I wanted to say and what I needed to say. And when it comes to the UWA crowd, I feel strongly connected to a lot of them because a lot of them have been coming since the beginning. There are a few people in our crowd who you can see have random green headbands. They're not like an SDM headband. They're just a green headband. And those people are people I gave headbands to years ago. You know what I mean? And they keep coming back. And I knew that I could be intimate with our fans. I knew that I could tell them what was going on, and I knew that when I came back, that they would accept me with open arms. But I also have to credit the UWA Elite. They got along just fine without me, and rightfully so. The boys did a great job, and it kind of proved to me, like, you're expendable. Like, you don't need to be here at all, man. They do just fine without you. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of people stepped up to the plate in my absence and knocked it out of the park.
That's pretty. And that's weird because you are the heart and soul of UWA Elite.
That's what they call me.
You know, when you get dubbed that moniker, or maybe you came up with that yourself, I don't know.
I didn't.
How does that feel knowing that they have had guys there for a long time? You know, King Tech's leader of the UWA Elite Army.
Yeah.
You know, so many guys have been there for so long, and then you get dubbed the heart and soul. I mean, how is that, man? Like,
it's I mean, I guess I don't think about it too much. It's incredibly wonderful and nice. Like, you don't expect that, you know. I've always kind of brushed it to the side, like, yeah, heart and soul. What I mean, but you know, I guess it's meant as who I am. The guys who know me in the back, and the guys who gave me that moniker know the type of guy I am, and know what I do at our shows. You know, I try to be the consummate professional. I try to show up on time. I try to help out. I try to learn. I also try to teach anybody who I think I can help in some sort of way. I try to give back. I break down that goddamn ring like it's my day job. And, you know, I try to do everything the right way.
is that something that the company wants other guys to do, or some guys just like, I just want to be there for the paycheck and go? Or
I mean, I think, you see, for me, it's never, for a lot of wrestlers, and rightfully so, it's an independent, singular business model. It's about them, and rightfully so. Any wrestler who's trying to achieve in this business, it should be about them. For me, it's always been about the UWA Elite. Like I said, I started basically doing this in this Fed in a backyard, and we've come this far, and to the point where we have like agents, and we have championship history, and we've carved ourselves out a little niche, and that has to do with the hard work of a core group of guys who are committed to, not necessarily, they are committed to themselves, but also, and sometimes more so, committed to the UWA Elite brand and Fed as a whole. And I'm one of those guys, and if that makes me an idiot, then so be it. But to see our Fed, you know, being talked about, and I'm on your guys' podcast, and to kind of carve our niche out in what is the hotbed of independent wrestling of the New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania area, it's awesome, and it means the world to me. So I think that's why I gotten that moniker, because it's never been, I'm not a branch out guy. I've wrestled a few shows here and there, but for the most part, I've primarily wrestled only for the UWA Elite.
I think you guys, you can see that with UWA, that you guys are more of like a family than, you know, if you would go to, you know, any other wrestling company where they bring guys in and out.
And we've gotten boys have come back because of that. Yeah. Some of the guys have stayed because of that. Yeah. Because they sense that our locker room is a little different, and that we have it's more of a, we want everybody to have the best match of the night. I want every guy who walks through that curtain to have match of the night, because that's better for us as a whole. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to get, oh, well, that guy's getting too much shine, I need to get over on him, or that doesn't exist in our Fed. Yeah. What it's about is, hey man, I'm going out there and having a great match, so you better go out there and have a great match. And it's more of a, anything you could do, I could do better type of attitude that we all have with each other. And because we have great wrestlers, you know, we have amazing, talented wrestlers who want to go out there and want to wrestle and want to be the guy every night, you know?
Yeah, no other feeling than that. You accepted me and Derek back there. But the craziest thing is when you go there on an off night like Crossroads brawl for it all when you're bringing in other people who are not usually there, and how accepted you guys are to those people as well,
and how quickly they assimilate into the group, and we're all goofing around and, and having fun and being silly. Yeah, it's an amazing thing, and the fans, they feel that about us. It's weird. I'm a big proponent of the old school style of doing things and kayfabe, and I don't like this. This is different, but like for the most part, I do a lot of things at a wrestling show that I don't normally, or I do things normally that I don't do at wrestling shows, because I'm trying to play the part. Yeah. But our fans know that we're a close-knit group of guys who love and care about each other. Kayfabe won't stop. I mean, kayfabe, but I mean, it's not going to stop them from seeing me coming out every night and breaking down the ring, and us boys helping each other out with getting the ring out of there and doing stuff like that. And because we're a small outfit, but I think that's part of our charm, and part of our is that, hey, we're putting on this show for you guys. But you guys really, like, the people who come to our shows, they sense that, like, these guys really care about this show. They really want it to be successful, all of them. And that's a part of the charm of a UWA Elite show that you might not get from other shows.
That too, and then also the building too. It's so small, right?
Yeah, it's a nice little. Yeah. We can get a good 150 people in there when we need to, but it's a nice little tight building, and I love that building.
It's always jammed.
Yeah, and the acoustics are brilliant. I wish I could sing.
That is part of the charm of UWA Elite, like you said. Anywhere else wouldn't feel like home.
Right, and that's I think a great way of putting it is that when you're at UWA Elite, you feel like you're at home. And you get to see these larger-than-life characters who you also feel like you could go down to the Applebee's with and grab a drink or two and shoot the breeze with, talk wrestling or sports or something. Because, we're a group of guys who you sense have a great love and desire for putting on an entertaining show.
You're eating good in the neighborhood, too. I mean, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, half-priced Appies, baby.
Or you go to Olive Garden where you're there, your family, right?
You are family at the Olive Garden. And UWA Elite too.
He just wanted to segue into Virgil. That's all it was. We gotta talk about him at least one time on our podcast. I thought we were gonna
bake some breadsticks together. I was feeling.
Look at you.
My heart was growing. It was like the Grinch before,
and look at you.
I was like, man,
he has his own intentions here. You see what he's doing?
Hey,
if they want to sponsor us, Olive Garden or Applebee's.
Well, I'll take that. I ain't gonna lie about that. I'll take that.
Hey, go for it, guys. They're worth it. They're worth the money.
Yeah, we'll gladly take.
You better cut me in on that. Take me over there for the half-priced apps or the.
Yeah, we can share some fuck money.
The dollar martini or whatever.
Yeah. So when you said you were doing some backstage stuff when you took some time off, what did you feel like you learned because you're experiencing wrestling from a different point of view?
I mean, I don't think I make much of an agent. Yeah. In terms of the fact that me agenting is all right, boys, here's the finish. You know what to do. That's because I feel very weird about putting input on somebody's match unless asked of me. Yeah. I do think, I think that'd come with time and confidence in doing it. Mm-hmm. But I only did it for a couple of months. The creative process I love. Yeah. I really enjoy trying to come up with, because, and I'm such a mark. They say it in the podcast, but, all the backstage guys who have podcasts now, the creative types, they all say, you get to play every character. And that's kind of true. And like being able to deep dive into these really interesting, because we have some, the Wretched Bows is a very interesting character. Yeah. I don't want to toot my pal's horn here, but I'm gonna. That is a character that you can really dive into and really come up with some creative ideas and really expand your mind on what you could do with a character like that. And like, we are a character-driven fed. I'm the only one who's not really playing a character. Mm-hmm. I'm Sean Damage McNelis, the handsome guy, John Cena. I go out there and I get to act like me, but everybody else on our roster is playing a character for the most part. and whether it be Kyle the Beast or TJ Blade or King Tech. I mean, these guys are great character. Joey Adams is another one, you know, but you can look down the line, you know, you got Clay Sawyer. That's a brilliant character right there. And that's a character you could dive into too. Clay has had a very interesting, Clay went from being heel to face, and like watching his character make that transition this year. And that's a credit to the man himself, Clay or Justin, you know, he did that. He made that happen. And watching him do it, you know, fills you with, oh, well, if, you know, if he can make this transition and make it work, you know, I could probably do a whole bunch of different things with him because he was able to do this. Now I can paint him this way or take him that way. And that's what I really enjoy is being, I just love to talk wrestling. I love to be able to sit in a room with guys and talk about wrestling and characters and break them down and see what we think they can do great and try to highlight their greatness and low light their badness.
Yeah, you talk about that transition, how characters change. You teetered on that a little bit this year, right? You were thinking about...
I mean, I've never been a heel. Mm-hmm. I've never been a bad guy. Not once in my professional career. So, yeah, I think I was... I loved the creative direction of my character this year. I think, you know, a lot that's the wonderful thing about wrestling is on the outside looking in, if you look at my year and you'd be like, oh, well, he had a bad year. He must have hated it. I loved it. It was one of my favorite years in wrestling. I lost a lot of matches, which means I got to put guys over. Mm-hmm. I had a promo, like a live vignette type thing on every show for the most part. So I'm spotlighted on every show. Despite losing, you know, I'm still being spotlighted. And then, you know, I get I lose at Brawl for It All and I lose at Crossroads. That's a story. You know what I mean? Now I have a story. That's the type of stuff I can really sink my teeth into, as opposed to just, oh, I go out and I win a match, and I go out and I win a match, and I go out and I win a match. Like, who's really getting buried? You know, like I'm heavily involved in our show. I'm on more than one segment on most of our shows. I am losing matches, sure, to high quality opponents in ways that don't necessarily make me look like shit. So, like, a lot of people kind of wanted me to feel, like, bad about... I loved this year, and I loved having a different dynamic to the character than just being the number one A-OK babyface guy going out and winning all of his matches. You know, that's fun, but I like something a little bit with layers, and I felt like my character this year had layers, and I felt like the fans could see that and could see that my character is capable of breaking and not always perfect.
You really are the John Cena of UWA. That's what it sounds like. We're just setting this up for your big comeback. For you to win the title again and be the champion.
That used to be like a Nikki Bella or something like that.
It kind of just fell into my lap. You know, you need a white meat baby face. Yeah. I was the white meat baby face. You know, I fit the bill. 6 foot, 200 pounds. Yeah. You know, green eyes, kind of handsome. Not so much anymore. I mean, when we started, I was 26 and beautiful.
You ever think about moving the headband to the shoulder?
I would really love to. That headband gives me a headache, man. It gives me such a headache. I only have one left, too. Really? I got to buy some more. I just haven't thought. I actually have the money, too, to buy some. And they sell, too. So I should buy some.
So this is an interesting question. So, you know, if you did decide to be heel, and maybe you know kind of like from, you know, friends of yours that are heels, how does that transition into you being a dad and having to explain to your kid that you're a heel now? That's the one
thing that actually I would actually find difficult about it. I've never been put in the position, and I was mentioning before about how I am a believer in the kayfabe. So like, it would be. We have a couple of kids who come to our show, the Millers, really wonderful family, and they have a little girl. I can't think of her name right now, and it's driving me nuts. But to have to be mean to her, to say nasty things, and to not shake her, and it would be. I mean, but I want to commit to the character. Yeah. So, but luckily I haven't had to. think about this.
Yeah.
But
Do it.
I would probably do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be committed to the character 100%. And I would explain to my daughter simply that it's a work, honey.
Yeah.
What's a work, Dad? I said that to her today. I was like, honey, it's a work. And she was like, what's a work? And I was like, it's a work, babe. And she'll learn.
Be the Seth Rollins, the UWA Elite. Just break everyone's heart,
Yeah, just burn it down.
Stab
Burn
her
it
in the
down.
back.
See, man, you look like you'd be a badass heel, man. I'm just saying.
I think I would be a very good heel.
Yeah. Black headband.
No headband.
No headband.
No, you gotta stay with the
Gotta
headband.
get rid of the headband.
Why
If
do
I was
Headband's
a
only
heel,
for Bobby Lashley.
I can't be talking about this. They're gonna kill. This is gonna kill my heel turn.
Oh my God.
Don't listen to any of this. This is. I love being a face, and I will always be a face. I probably will always be a face. I don't know if I'll ever turn. I don't know if they'll ever turn me.
You gotta go to a different Fed and then turn heel there like Hogan.
Yeah,
You know,
that's it.
And just
Yeah.
get
I gotta
your own
skip.
group.
I gotta skip feds and go
You know,
turn.
you just be mean to whoever. It's like,
Yeah.
I love these people. Let me just be mean to them.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to be a heel,
It'd be
but at the
cool.
same time, it's nice to be like a baby face and everybody loves you. But
Yeah.
it's easy. Most wrestlers will tell you it's easier and funner to be a heel because it's easier and funner. But that means I'm doing something okay. I'm a pretty over baby face in my little pond.
But one match I thought was interesting is you faced Kit Osborne.
I did.
When you get a challenge like that, somebody who's not a UWA Elite guy, Kit Osborne, how much fun was that for you, or was it fun at all? Because he's a competitor.
It was a blast. Actually, at the time I was just getting back. It was kind of like, hey, Sean, we need you to do this sort of thing, because I wasn't supposed to be on that show, but I think somebody called out, and so when I got there and I met Kit, I was like, hey man, it's been a while for me, so I'm a little rusty, and he was very understanding and very giving and willing, and I enjoyed the crap out of our match. I wish we could have another. I've actually been lucky enough to be able to wrestle quite a few guys from outside of our Fed and have matches with them. I had a match with Latin Dragon that I really enjoyed. I really loved that match. I had a match with Matt McIntosh that I'd like to have again, because I felt like I was nervous. I got nervous being in there with McIntosh, and I don't understand why, because I had wrestled with him before. But at the time, McIntosh is doing his thing right now, and he's a phenomenal wrestler.
Absolutely.
And a really great guy. And, I remember when I had the match with him, I had a little bit of nerves, and I thought it showed in the match. Now, a couple people told me they liked the match, but I wish he's a great competitor. I wish I could have, because I felt like I left something for him to desire. I think he went into it like, oh, this guy can work. And then he came out of it like, maybe he can't. So I felt like I left a bad taste in his mouth, and that upset me. But, just having the opportunity to be in the ring with these guys and wrestle with them, and wrestle with a guy like Kid Osborne or a Matt McIntosh, it's fantastic and awesome. And that's why I used to love our UWA versus the World pay-per-view. I was the captain every time except for once. So I knew I was wrestling somebody from outside of our Fed, and like this year I got to work, not against, but I got to work with TJ Marconi, and that was fantastic. You want to talk about a great wrestler and an awesome guy. That's another one too, Marconi.
Yeah.
Solid dude.
So that kind of segues into my next question. Is there anybody that that you want to get into the ring with, that's out there in the indie scenes that you haven't gotten into the ring with?
Man, there's plenty of.
Pull out the notebooks.
Let me give me a minute. Let me think. Okay, if there was one person in particular who I would really like to have a match with, it would probably be one of my biggest inspirations for getting into wrestling, and that would be William Regal.
Oh, that'd be
Really?
nice.
Yes. I love William Regal. I actually started doing the Regal stretch as a finish, as an homage to him. Reason being is I hated Regal. He made me physically angry. Like when I was a fan, and I would watch, because I started out watching SmackDown. I didn't have cable for a very long time, so I never really got to watch Raw or anything. And my first foray into wrestling was watching SmackDown. So, and that's when he's coming on a lot and doing the
Commissioner?
gentleman gimmick.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
And oh my gosh, he used to make me so seethingly mad, and I loved. And then as I grew as a wrestler, I was like, he is so unorthodox, and he's doing things like he's doing tiger suplexes on WWE programming, and it's like how. And so he is somebody who I've always wanted to have a match with, but like on a more like current, like here and now level. It's actually funny. I can name Sean Phoenix, the guy who busted his face. I always wanted to have a match with him since way back in the day because I've known him for a long time. Golly, see, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of all these names, and then I'm shitting the bed on actually trying to come up with anybody in particular. Golly. Anybody. I mean, I would love to wrestle anybody and anybody out there. I can't really pinpoint a particular guy.
I was thinking Jake Parnell.
Oh, yeah, he's worked for us before. He's great.
Yeah, just because,
yeah, he'd be great. But we look too alike, though.
Yeah, that's what I think. Was
I need a
the cool
monster.
part, you know. But you guys
to do a triple threat. Him, Jake Parnell, Flip Gordon, all three of them look like
There
each
you
other.
go. Yeah, see, that's
Whoever loses
and that
gotta
gets back
cut
to
their
my
hair or something.
that gets back to my point about us switching gear. You know.
I guess.
Oh man.
But it's like Sub-Zero versus like Scorpion, you know,
yeah.
like you want to see that fight,
Right.
even though they're almost the same.
Well, there's
you know, they look the
know,
same.
now that I'm thinking about it, there's a couple of guys on our Fed that I've never actually wrestled, who I'd love to. Well, no, I've pretty much wrestled everybody in our Fed. You know, I was supposed to wrestle Eddie Blackwater. I never got to. That's the Kid Osborne match. He was originally in it, so I kind of want to wrestle him because I had started gearing up for him. But you know, I'm not like I don't know. I mean, shit. Schlack? I'd love to have a match with Schlack.
Wow.
No, I don't. I mean, if we could have, you know, that would be crazy.
Regular,
That
you want,
dude.
you want like
I would prefer a regular match with that dude. He's a big cat.
I
I
But,
wouldn't want to wrestle him at all because he's just
Listen, I'll wrestle anybody and anybody because honestly, I love wrestlers. Like they're just the coolest people.
Yeah.
Like, and they have such great stories and like. That's what it's at. That's where it is right now. So, like,
You need to make sure you have the best healthcare coverage. If you're
oh my
facing
gosh,
Schlack.
if I get in there with him, forget it. That dude
Oh,
is
man.
a hoss. I tell you.
I saw him in KTB live. Oh, my
forget
god,
it.
man!
And that's that's a guy, KTB. I could wrestle him for the rest of my life. Oh my gosh, and be happy, and have different matches. And he's the heart and soul of the UWA Elite. You know, people want to call me that. But it's actually Kyle the Beast. And I mean, I know he's out doing his thing. He's not necessarily relegated to just the UWA Elite because he's big. He's out there. He's, in my opinion, he's one of the top 10 best independent wrestlers out there right now.
Yeah,
I will say that, and that is true, and other people will back me up on that. They'll be like, that idiot on that podcast who doesn't know shit about Dick actually was right about Kyle the Beast. And he deserves all of the stuff he's getting. One of the best, you know, I've learned more from Kyle over the last couple of years than I have any other wrestler. And, you know, if any wrestlers want to learn, that's a guy to not necessarily be like, hey, can I learn from you? But just sit by him and listen to him. He is the example of a guy who you can learn from by just sitting with him, talking with him, following him around.
Definitely. Now, out of all the things that I've learned about you and researched on you, the one thing I did want to ask you is, why damage? What is that for? Like, what was the meaning behind it? That's the one thing I couldn't get.
Okay.
How did you come up with damage?
Okay, so in order to do this right, I have to take you back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So, my name is Sean McNelis. That's my actual name. And my first gimmick that I ever came up with was MC Nellis.
MC Nellis.
I was a rapper.
Oh, man.
Never rapped.
So you really are John Cena of UWA.
Oh, my gosh. I did it before, John.
Yeah.
I was doing that when he was still wearing the spandex and Ruthless Aggression slapping Kurt in the face. But I never rapped. And then, you know, I grew tired of that, and I was playing basketball. And every time what a douchebag thing. Every time this dude shot and hit a three, he'd go damage. And that's where it comes from. It was just simple as, and I had a cool name for a finisher, collateral damage.
True. Okay.
So I was like, I gotta call myself Damage because I have a cool name for a finish.
That's
Ooh.
awesome.
And I don't even do that move really anymore. But
hilarious.
the Damage thing is stuck. If it was up to me now, here and now, I'd probably just be Shawn McNelis. But you know, the SDM thing has a nice ring to it, and they chant it every now and again. So I like it.
That's when you go Hill.
I'll take it.
That's when you go Hill. Just to
But
cut the Damage out.
The one thing I'm big about, and people mess with me about it till this day, is I'm either Shawn McNelis, Shawn Damage McNelis, or just Damage. I'm not Shawn Damage. I hate that.
Or you could be STD, Sean the Damage.
No, I'm not Shawn the Damage. Oh my word, that is hysterical. That is, I can't believe in my whole, not a single person has ever been like STD, like not a heel, not one of them. Oh,
See,
gosh.
This is a story. We're setting this up.
You got to work it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
gotta get signed.
When he becomes a Hill, and he's just gonna be no more Damage, just Shawn McNelis.
That's
and then
it.
You're gonna start to chant STD.
No, you're not Shawn the Damage. No.
Sean the Damage.
Stop
It's
it.
like The Rock. You know?
Yo, I would love
Oh
that.
man,
You
that'd
just
be
become the
hilarious.
Damage.
Die Shawnee
hilarious.
die chance. Die Damage die chance. Damage sucks.
You
Doesn't
might be
ring.
that powerful as a heel that you
That's a
might
good
get
story,
those.
man. I like this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I do have a briefcase, so
This would be nice.
So
watch out.
You know, you've won a lot of different matches at UWA. You won Brawl for It All back in 2011. You're multi-time champion. When you win these matches and championships, you know, how does it feel? You feel like the company just says, okay, you know, this is the guy that deserves it this year. Or is it something that you have to work for?
I mean, that word, deserve, I hate that word.
Mhm.
I really do. I think it's thrown around way too much by too many wrestlers nowadays. None of us deserve anything. And at first, winning the championship was amazing and awesome. And, you know, to be honest, it still is. It always feels great to win it. I was lucky enough to just, you know, be the guy at the time. But it's kind of weird. I was our champion on our second day. You know what I mean? Like the second day of our existence, I was our champion. So I kind of became synonymous with it for a while there. People used to call me champ all the time. They don't anymore. I've lost quite a bit over the last. But I mean, I love being able to represent the company in that way. I love the fact that the office feels like I can represent the company in that way. I think anybody feels that way. But I mean, I also feel like, you know, it is what it is, and it is a prop. It's a great prop. It's an awesome prop to have, but it's a prop. I mean, I would love to be the UWA Elite champion again. You know, maybe I will be, maybe I won't be. It's not something. I'm not gonna go, oh boss, I gotta win the championship 3 more times. I'm never gonna do that. You know, although I'm sure there's one member of our roster, if he's listening to this, would say he already did that once. Fuck you, Hedges. But no, like it's an awesome feeling, and to have been able to do it 3 times and to have been able to do it against some of the people I've done it against is also an amazing and wonderful feeling.
A quick question though. Brandon the Bull, when he won, he got the bull skull on his. You know, Arcadia was a champion, a UWA
yeah, he was
champion.
the A champion.
Yeah. If you win, would you want a spinner?
Oh gosh, I knew you were gonna ask that. No, I don't. I don't want a spinner. I don't want a silly gimmick on the front with horns or an A. I just want a belt. That's all. It can have the little circular plates with my face and my symbol on it. You can put a headband on it. There you go. Put a headband on that belt. Call it a day.
You would have green and black studs though, right?
Of course, yes. All green, all black. That's why I like the I Championship. It's a green and black belt. I should have that all the time.
Why that? Why those 2 colors?
They're my favorite colors. Green, my eyes are green, and I just love black. I mean, now you're a big wrestling fan, right? You've been a wrestling fan your whole life. Bret Hart fan. Did Bret Hart call himself the Pink and Black Attack? Did he?
No,
He didn't? Okay. 'Cause somebody tried telling me that he did.
No.
It's like, I didn't steal that from Bret Hart.
No,
I mean,
well,
if he did, I didn't know he did that.
People might have called him that.
People called
Right.
him that,
He
comment,
didn't
but he
call him
never.
that.
See,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know people called him that.
Yeah, people did call him the thing,
See,
but he
I
never
thought
called
I had
himself
an
that.
original idea. Turns out, no, I stole it unknowingly.
I mean, you can kind of do like Brett, kind of give out the headbands, you know.
Yeah,
to
you
the
know,
kids.
originally I did a like a Ric Flair thing about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was, I don't know if it's good or not.
You know, you said this was one of your best years, but that one feud that, if you were gonna say to somebody, this defines who I am.
I mean, if I had to define my career based on a feud, it would probably have to be Arcadia.
Archadia?
Arcadia. Arcadia a couple years ago for the belt, the Iron Man match, 30-minute Iron Man match. That, to me, in a nutshell, is the quintessential Sean Damage McNelis moment, overcoming the Goliath after a year of running roughshod through our whole roster, being able to get the victory over him, a guy who is always, and I mean, the story was driven around the fact that I've always been number 2 to his number 1. I think that was the quintessential story of my career. But you know, you mentioned 2 of the guys that are like aces in my sleeve, that like Nicholas K and Mike Dell, 2 guys who I have great chemistry with and love wrestling with. 2 seasoned vets, like you said, a couple of tough guys too. You know, those guys also helped to make me the good guy that I am. I've always had the privilege of having really great bad guys, you know, and that is a benefit that I've had since the beginning of my wrestling career, whether it have been Dr. John Bowes all the way back in 2011 to now with Mike Dell. I've always been surrounded by great giving bad guys who've been more than willing to try to shine me up and make me look great as a face, as a good guy. And Nicholas K is a great example of that. Mike Dell's a great example of that. Clay Sawyer, when he was a heel, is a great example of that. There is a ton of guys. Joey Adams, a great example of that. Corey Dillinger, Hedges. These guys, they're brilliant heels. And Dillinger's a great face, too. But these guys can be great, great heels, and they make it very easy to be a good guy when you got that kind of talent to work against.
Right. So, what do you see as your end goal with wrestling? Like, what are you looking to accomplish? I mean, you know.
I mean, now
where do you want to be at?
I mean, now it's fun. Now for me, you know, I'm 32. I probably got at least 1 herniated disc. But I'm kind of just winding out, you know, the rest of my career. I'm the old sheriff, you know, I'm going to ride out sunset soon. You know, just trying to give back as much as I can. I do want to, you know, I'd like to have a little bit of success here and there, but for the most part, I want to be able to give back. There are certain things at wrestling that I've always been good at. You know, I don't really like to talk about myself a lot, but I'll talk about myself right now. One thing I think I do in wrestling, in our wrestling, I check all the boxes. I think that's why I was the heart and soul. I think that's why I've won as many championships as I have. Is because I'm certainly not the best at anything aspect of wrestling, but I'm pretty good. I've got a pretty good mouth. I'm a pretty good worker. I'm athletic. I'm good looking. I actually look like a wrestler.
Yeah.
I check every box. I think that's why I've had a great deal of success. And I think now I can use some of those talents and help other guys and try to, you know, get other guys going and confident. You know, I mean, I've only been doing this now 7 years, 8 years, but I think I've left impressions on people. You know, a guy who comes to mind for me is Michael Massacre. I worked with Mike a lot when he was younger, and I don't know if he would say it, but I'd like to think I left an impression on him about wrestling and about how it's supposed to be done and how you're supposed to be doing it. And Mike is seeing some great success right now, and I look very forward to seeing him all over the place in the future. And he's kind of like the one guy who I look at like, you know, I think I made an impact on him. And that means more to me than any championship or any belt or anything like that. Being able to have an impact on somebody who could benefit from it and who can utilize the words I say or the advice I give and take that to the next level in wrestling, in life, in whatever, that's the feeling that you're going for. And that's really what I'm about now. And also, kind of just, I could still do this. I'm still running around here looking like a wrestler, being very good looking, having great promos, having great matches. And, maybe this, for as much as I want to help the UWA Elite, I also want the UWA Elite to understand that I'm not going anywhere until somebody kicks me out. You know what I mean? Until somebody else can be the heart and the soul of the UWA, and somebody else. And there's guys there that can do it and that will do it. And, when they do, I will put my tail in between my legs and ride off into the sunset just like they need me to. But honestly, I love wrestling. I love our fans. I love the guys I get to do it with. I used to think of it as a hobby. For me now, it's an escape from, the monotony of everyday 32-year-old single dad living. And I've developed some wonderful friendships with people who now I've been friends with for more than half my life, and who I couldn't replace, and have helped mold and shape me into the man that I am. So and my time's coming. I know that, me, the King, the Doc, the three of us, we've been doing this a really long time and have not necessarily taken care of ourselves. So I think the three of us are aware that our time is coming, but as long as I can still do it, I'm going to still do it. And as long as it's still bringing me joy, I'm still gonna try to go out there and do it.
I mean, you go another 20 years like Magic,
Oh,
right?
Fuck yeah, I'll be doing moonsaults off balconies like Terry Funk.
I mean, how crazy is it that Magic's been doing this
Magic's-
for 36 plus
Hold
years?
on, real quick. I want to mention this. Magic has been doing this for 30 some odd plus years. He's in his 50s and he blows everybody else up.
Yeah.
He's not getting blown up. Everybody else is blowing him out. What's the matter, guys? Come on. We're just doing a wrestling match. Magic is, I tell you what, Magic is spry. Magic could wrestle in his 80s and still fuck people up, pardon my language.
He's amazing.
Yes. And that's the kind of guy, like, that's another wonderful thing about I met Magic, here, sidebar. I met Magic in 2002 at BWL.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is Dread's Magic, okay?
Oh
This is
God.
Cornrow's Magic, okay? This is a different beast than the bear, the sweet, cuddly teddy bear that you know. This is a different guy. At a training seminar, at a doghouse training where you pay $10 for open ring. So I'm supposed to know what I'm doing, and I don't. So he's running drills. He's the first person, I've been going there once or twice. He's the first person to run a drill.
Wow.
And so we're doing bumps, and he gets to flip bumps, and I'm doing flip bumps. And I'll never forget, Magic was like, "This motherfucker right here has the best flip bump out of all of y'all." And he was talking about me. I was like, "Holy shit, thank you. Oh my God." It was the only compliment I ever got
Magic.
was from Magic, who does not remember this and does not know that this even occurred. But the first compliment I got in professional wrestling was at a training, and Magic was there, and he said I did a good flip bump. And then I got into the ring, and New Wave Dave Lineup beat me up.
Yeah. And it's funny too because every time I talk to him, I learn something new that just makes me respect him even more as a human being. I didn't think I could have more respect than I did the last time until I meet him again. I'm like, "Did you just say something like, he's like, I'm giving back to charity this week," and I'm like, you should have just said everything in one bubble so I can have like one respect for you like all at once. But like every time I see him, he just lights me up, and it's like a Christmas tree. I'm like how like it starts off
and then it goes up.
And I'm just like, wow, man, like I have so much respect for you, and it's just him. He just
Magic is fantastic. He gave me some of the best advice about being a dad and about how half the battle's just being there, and very warm, wonderful, loving man.
He's the best. He really is.
He's Uncle Magic, not the magician one, the good one, the real Uncle Magic.
Favorite Uncle Magic.
The real Uncle Magic. Taking bumps off ladders at 52 years old. He's still kicking ass.
Yeah, when you see that he's going everywhere still. He's going to different companies, different promotions. Do you feel like you want to do that too? Do you want to go to different shows and be there?
I tell you, I did. Right before I had a kid. I thought about like branching out, and I still do. It's a comfort thing for me now. I mean, it always was kind of a comfort thing. Like I said, when I first went to train, I realize it now. I got beat up pretty bad at one of the first couple of trainings I went to by a guy who I think had ill intentions. Like, he wasn't beating me up to try to smart me up to the business and be like, hey, this is how it is sometimes. I think he was beating me up because he wanted to beat me up. And it made me lose a lot of love and trust because I was really green. So I shouldn't have been there anyway. But when the guy beat me up, I just remember thinking, it's supposed to be fake. Mm-hmm. I mean, a 17-year-old kid who lied about being 18. Mm-hmm. But that kind of changed me and made me like not so comfortable about wrestling. And in wrestling, you have to be giving. You have to be able to give your body, because if you're not going to give your body, you're going to hurt yourself worse. Mm-hmm. If you're not willing to take the bump the way you're supposed to, it's going to be worse. Yeah. And it was always hard for me to develop trust for guys. It's taken me until now to be confident enough in myself as a wrestler to know the difference between, all right, this guy's working a little snug, or all right, this guy's trying to fuck me up. But, I mean, there's not much. Like I said, I'm 6 foot, 200 pounds. I look like every other half-decent independent wrestler out there. Like, what, like, I mean, I'd love to venture out and branch out, and maybe I could succeed and maybe have success, but as of now, I'm very comfortable being a big fish in my little pond, and being a father. I mean, that's the thing, because the weekends are for my daughter for the most part.
Yeah, I was looking because a lot of the guys of UWA found success at World One.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's a place I could see myself working, absolutely. A lot of our guys have had success at SWF as well.
True.
You see some of our guys on CZW program, and you see our guys on GCW. You can see our guys anywhere. Mm-hmm. And, that's a testament to them. And some of those guys are wrestlers. Like, I'm a wrestler in UWA Elite, but you got Kyle the Beast is a wrestler. He's a working wrestler. He is a professional ass motherfucking wrestler. Brandon Kirk also. Those guys are out there doing it, and they're a little bit younger than me, and they have a little more freedom than I do with having a kid. And I'm not shitting on that. I love being a dad, and I love being a father, but and there are some guys out there who are fathers who are still doing it. And more power fucking to them if they're able to, make enough money to support their family doing it. But I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be the guy going out chasing my dream and not being able to support my kid. If an opportunity came up, I would probably take it. I'm just not outwardly searching for bookings. You know what I mean? If somebody were to come to me and be like, hey, man, we'd love to have you come in, I would absolutely, give that a look. But I'm just not... I don't think anybody's going to do that. I don't think I have some sort of crazy head on my shoulders. Like, oh, yeah, they should come book me. Where I got to go see these guys. I'm just not. I mean, if the opportunity arose, I'd absolutely take it. But I'm just not actively searching.
Sure. Now, actually, one last question.
Hit me.
If you weren't in wrestling, or do you have any plans to do anything outside of wrestling? What would you do?
Oh, well, actually, I mean, this is going to sound weird, but I was thinking about, I really want to get into community theater. Nice. I love performing. That's kind of the weird thing about wrestling is it's live action performing. And it's very quietly, I have 8 years of live action performing under my belt, just from doing it. And, I love acting. I love being the center of attention, put it that way. I love public speaking too. But I've always been an athlete also. I love football, basketball, baseball. I've always thought about getting into coaching. Lots of stuff. I want to paint real bad. I'm not a painter. Yeah. I don't know how to paint. But I've been watching that Bob Ross, and I tell you what, I really want to paint. I'm becoming an older. It's weird how it happens, and I'm watching it happen to me. Like, I'm 32, and like, now I don't want to go like getting fucked up and meeting chicks, and like I want to sit in the backyard in the hammock with like a lemonade and my little girl running around playing, while maybe I'm watching I don't know, a program about sea turtles on Discovery Channel on my tablet or whatever. That's like kind of, and then I'm painting a forest background, or that's kind of. I'm just all about easy living now. I get the wrestlers who, once they get old, they just want to throw their cowboy boots on and go off to the cabin out in the woods and be left alone. That's kind of how I am right now.
You could still be like Ric Flair, going out every night.
Oh my God, no! I'm past that life, man. I mean,
you stopped drinking, but you could still live the
I
lifestyle.
I drink every now and again, but I'm not a. I think the last time I partied, no. I just can't do it anymore.
No.
My body just does not keep up.
Man,
I'm just too old.
Party now, you got to recover for like
Hell
5
yeah,
days.
man. 32 is different. When I was 24, I could do whatever I wanted. Now, I can't even. I eat 2 cheeseburgers and I gotta take a nap.
Yeah. Man.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Sean,
Hey.
where can people get you on social media, man?
Well, you know this part. I'm not very good at social media. I think I have a Twitter. I think it's at Sean Dubes, but I don't sign into that. I think I only have 3 tweets. Primarily, your best bet for finding me is I have a fan page, Sean Damage McNelis. I also have a personal page, Sean McNelis. You're going to friend the personal page, Sean McNelis. I know you are. I'll accept the friend request. Don't worry about it. But you can go to my fan page also, Sean Damage McNelis on Facebook, or UWA Elite. For any information about me and wrestling, you're going to find it on UWAElite.com.
Nice, awesome. Sean, we appreciate you coming by, answering our questions, taking the time out.
I appreciate you guys having me. It was an absolute blast.
Definitely. Make sure you follow him. Check out his 3 tweets. his 3 UWA titles.
Boom! 3 tweets, 3-time champion.
There you go. And make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at WrestlingIQ101. You can listen to this here on YouTube. You can listen to it on the B Plus Player Network, on Google, iTunes, all the streaming platforms. And we thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks again.
We are out. You have just listened to the Wrestling IQ 101 podcast, powered by B Plus Player Radio.
One more for the good guy.